give a massive Chudley welcome to the Reverend Maggy Whitehouse. Hello. How lovely to be here in Chudley. What a lovely house. What a lovely town. There's a violet house in the middle. Absolutely gorgeous. It's a real pleasure to be here. I am a real reverend. I'm a rather odd reverend. And therefore I will be doing jokes about God. It keeps the name in circulation. And people do say, why on earth would a vicar want to do comedy? And that's fairly simple. It's really nice to talk to more than 4 people in a room. However, I quite often get a lot of resistance in that people don't believe I'm a real vicar. They say, oh, anybody can put a dog collar on. And I can imagine 1 or 2 of you are going, no, a vicar really wouldn't do comedy. And anyway, with that note, she's just got to be Jewish. And I kind of am, actually, more ish than Jew. More ish than Jew. I spent 8 years very happily married to a Jewish man. And I learned an awful lot about Jesus. I got the J word in the first minute and nobody's left. That's cool. A lot about Jesus. I learned, first of all, very important things, that Jesus was not a Christian and Jesus was not white. Apart from the ethnicity of it, if you think about it, he started his ministry with 40 days in the wilderness without shade, sunblock or a hat. The guy was definitely brown. Unless, of course, he was one of those Jewish redheads, in which case he looked like a lobster. Now, the marriage did not last. I have to confess it didn't last. It's a shame. But it was basically the Jewish laws that did it. I don't know if you know, but Orthodox Jews have to obey 613 laws. Did you know that? In the Hebrew Testament, 613. And my husband was very hot on 612 of them. The one that says, do not marry a woman who isn't a Jew, seemed to have slipped his mind. But you probably do know some of them. One of them, a couple of them. You can't eat pork and you can't eat shellfish. But you probably don't know the one that says you may not touch your wife for up to 2 weeks in a month. Really? Absolutely. Fellow Brummie, really? Yeah. Wouldn't do in Brum, would it? No, absolutely not. During the time of your menstruation, and for 7 full days after, an Orthodox Jew is not allowed to touch his wife because she's ritually unclean. That means he obviously can't have sex with her, can't sleep in the same bed with her, cannot sit on a chair that she has sat on, cannot kiss her or even hold her hand. He can, however, eat the food she cooks, so that's all right then, isn't it? So it didn't work out in the end, because basically I was very young when I married him, and when you're young you have needs, don't you? You have definite needs. I'm not proud of it, but I was unfaithful. I was serially unfaithful, and there's only so many times a man can come home and find his wife in bed with a bacon sandwich. So I'm a genuine vicar. My church is called St Gabriel's. So I ought to reassure you a bit, because it's a bit scary having a vicar stand in front of you when you haven't gone to church. So I will reassure you, it's all right, you are safe. You are completely safe, I promise you. There isn't going to be a collection. And I am not going to use the 4 little words. The 4 little words are the most terrifying words in the English language. And I don't know if you've ever noticed, but most of the frightening phrases in English come in little 4-word sentences. Things like, we have to talk. The 4 little words that are terrifying when you have a Christian in the room are much worse. And they are, of course, have you found Jesus? Now, even I get these questions from fundamentalists and born-again Christians, neither of which I am. Any fundies or born-agains in here tonight? Thank God. Anyway, have you found Jesus? What I usually say is, where did you lose him this time? But in fact, those words are only ever spoken by the kind of people that Jesus would be hiding from. The only people in the world that Jesus did not like were fundamentalist people who followed the law above kindness and thought they were the only ones who knew how to do it right. Oh, and bankers. He couldn't stand bankers. Went after bankers with a knotted whip He was a pretty cool guy, Jesus, till religion got hold of him. But the 4 little words are horribly tempting. Horribly tempting. I go to London a lot, just like Luke. I travel around a lot to do comedy. And I go to London and I have to catch a commuter train up. And the 4 little words are just what you need on a packed commuter train to London when you haven't got a seat. And if you're going to do it, you've got to do it properly. You don't bother with the airline seats down by the loo. You need to waft down to the centre tables where there's 4 people sitting in a nice bit of window, smile beatifically. A dog collar helps, but it isn't necessary. Lean over and just go, "Have you found Jesus?" And a miracle will happen. Every time. 4 people, for no reason whatsoever, will suddenly decide they'd rather spend the whole journey standing, preferably in another carriage. Yep, I know I'm going to hell, but at least I'm doing it with decent legroom. So, as Jackie said, I'm a Brummie too. I'm from Birmingham, and when I was born, my mother wanted to call me Margaret, which would have been Margriet in Birmingham. But my father wouldn't let her call me Margaret, so he christened me Maggy. Maggy. Not Maggie I.E., which has been the bane of my life forever, but I'm damn well holding on to it now. And I said to him, "Why did you call me Maggie?" Because Maggoy isn't much better than Margriet. And he said, "It's Welsh. We spend a lot of time in Wales. It's Welsh. It's a very beautiful name." And then when he died 17 years ago, he called me to his deathbed and he said, "I have a confession to make about your name." And I said, "Well, that's interesting because I've never found any trace of it being Welsh." And he said, "I saw it on the back of a lavatory door in Towyn." God rot his soul. Rest his soul. Anyway, I'm from Birmingham, which of course is a very multicultural city. In fact, where I lived in Moseley, most of the people were Muslim. And not all of them, according to Fox News, but most of them. And so I'm very used to a multicultural environment. So when I was sent down to Devon, it came as a bit of a shock. Because I don't know if you've ever noticed. I mean, anybody, you've got a couple of Brummies here. Anybody else from big cities? We're multicultural cities? Yes? Where from? Where? Oh, Slough, yes. Come bombs and rain, friendly bombs and rain on Slough, as John Betjeman said. Anybody else? Multicultural areas? Yeah, absolutely. Have you noticed, as you come down the M5 or the M4, the countryside just gets whiter and whiter and whiter and whiter till you get down here to Devon.
And it's silver.
Oh, that's very true. Very true indeed. Good point. I'll wrap that in there. Definitely silver. And where I live, East Wick, which is right on the very edge of Dartmoor, it's farming country, it's sheep country. And they really get terribly surprised if even they get a black-faced lamb, frankly. And I asked our local farmer after we'd been here, his name's Mike and he's an absolutely lovely guy, and I caught him when he didn't have his arm up a sheep, that is an arm, I'd like to point that out, and said, "Mike, what is a Jew?" And he said, "Well, that be what you find spread out all over the lawn on a fine Sunday summer morning." And I said, "Yeah, Mike, what is a Hindu?" And he said, "Oh, I reckon that'll be what our Megan had the night before her wedding." Which, knowing our Megan, is entirely possible unless she found the Jew first. And then I said to Mike, "What is a Muslim?" And he said, "Oh, that's be easy. That's be what Sue, my wife, used to strain the fruit out with when she makes her jelly jam." And actually, you know, that one's not so daft. It's not daft. Did you know that without Islam we wouldn't have jam? It's absolutely true. We did not have Islam, and we did not have jam, which is far more important, until Islam brought it to us. And jam is very important to us in Devon, isn't it, for our cream teas? And one of the things I found out when I came down here is about the war between Devon and Cornwall, about whether you put your jam on first or your cream on first. That's important, isn't it?
Oh, very important.
Very important. I have very bad news for you. Cornwall wins. The only reason why Cornwall wins is because of Poldark. Because if you're going to eat Aidan Turner, you don't give a flying fuck whether or not he's got the jam or the cream on first. Here in Devon, we've only got Simon Bates, and frankly, there aren't enough comestibles in the world. Anyway, he'll kill me when I get back to work at Radio Devon, but there you go. It's absolutely true. The first jam came to Britain with the Crusaders, with the Knights Templar in the 11th century. The Pope sent them to get the Holy Grail, and they came back with jam, which I think is a very fair deal. However, they didn't come back with a recipe. The recipe didn't arrive until Queen Elizabeth I was excommunicated by the Pope and then started trading with Islam. And the first ever ship in to London town from Moorish Morocco had the following cargo. In 1574, it had 300 tons of refined sugar, 200 tons of molasses, and 600 pounds of quince jelly. Now, I have many friends who are Muslim, and I know that they are all responsible users of jam. But that's got me suspicious. And I think it was an early jihadist plot to destroy the Western infidel with obesity and type 2 diabetes. So, any atheists in tonight? Hands up the atheists. You lucky bastards.
We get to do what we want.
It's all right for you, isn't it? You're so sure.
Absolutely.
You're just absolutely fundamentally sure. You get a funny voice in your head, all you have to do is lie down with 2 aspirin until it goes away. Me, I'm stuck with my childhood imaginary friends. Yeah, all right, they prefer childhood invisible friends. Sorry about that. What? Well, all right, now you're... All right. You want to talk to somebody in the audience called Zoe? Is there a Zoe in the audience? She didn't show up. I'm sorry, she stood you up. Will anyone else do? I am not going to ask which of them are virgins. No, it's not polite. Would you excuse me for a minute? I know you're a little overwhelmed by the numbers, but we are not here to pick Miss Apocalypse 2016. You know it didn't work out well the last time. I just wish you'd be a bit more supportive. I'll see you on Sunday.
Yeah.
No? Why not? Sunday's your day off. That's why you prefer the Jews. Fine. Okay, moving swiftly on. I do have one question of the atheists, though. Would you oblige me by answering the question? Because it's something I've wondered about for a long, long time. Hands up again, the atheists.
Don't ask Joe.
Hmm?
Don't ask him.
All right, I won't ask him. Okay, I've always wondered, what do you guys say at orgasm? Thank you. Well, that's very nice and very polite. Well done, that lady. I've always wondered, do the girls go, oh, Professor Brian Cox? Do the boys go, oh, Angelina Jolie? Or do you go, oh, random fluctuations in the space-time continuum, which is a bit of a mouthful at the moment? Thank you, that's very nice. I did actually ask this question once in London, and a guy at the back of the room yelled out, "You're shite!" Now, I'm not a relationship expert, but I don't think shouting "you're shite" at the moment of orgasm is going to get you another date. Would you like to play a game, a quick game? Would you like to call it? There is a prize. It's called Who is the Most Abominable Person in the Room? And it's based on the Old Testament 613 abominations. I'd like to point out to you that many of these made an awful lot of sense to a desert people who did not have antibiotics, hot running water, A&E, or a spiralizer. However, they do not make sense today. And if you ever meet a fundamentalist, I would like you to play this game with him. Would you like to do that? Yeah. Let's get them, shall we? Right, let us play a game called Biblical Abominations, and I would like you please to be honest. Will you be honest with me?
Yeah.
Will you be honest with the vicar?
Yeah.
I want to know how many abominations you've got, and the one who has the most gets a prize. On a vicar's wages, it's a pretty pathetic prize, but it is still a prize, okay? So, are you ready? Will you put your hands up and own up to these abominations, please? These are all equal in offence to the fundamentalist to homosexuality. Because one of the abominations is homosexuality, and that's what fundamentalists will always play the game with you. They will always say it is a sin, it is an abomination, punishable by death. These are all abominations punishable by death. Okay? Anybody here got a tattoo on their body? Yeah. Abomination punishable by death. Good. Well done. Good start. Good start. So keep count of you. Anybody here sow 2 kinds of seed in the same garden? Yeah. Abomination punishable by death. Anybody here cursed their father or mother? Yeah, abomination.